Time now for Back Pages. Tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at these sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Well, joining us are Mark Ogden from ESPN and the Mail's Isaan Khan. Hi there, guys. Welcome to you both. Before we come to, let's run through the back pages. Beginning with the Star. I'm not the Messiah, I'm just a very naughty boy, says gung-ho Ange, with a focus on Tottenham's playing style. On the Mirror, they also concentrate on Tottenham, and there's a dispute over Tyson Fury's beard. In the Mail, it's offensive. Pep fears rip-off prices in January. In the Express, they have Pep Guardiola on the back and a ban for football. A couple of days off for City's players. More discussion on that. Similar story on the back of the Eye as well, with Pep's break for a couple of days from football this week. Back of the Sun, their headline, Tyson Fury, as the debate over his beard continues into fight nights. And again, Tyson Fury on the back of the Times as well. No hiding place is the headline. And the Telegraph for concentrating on rugby. Rebels vow to oust Sweeney as Alou sacrifice backfires. Well, let's now start with the Star and concentrate on Tottenham's style of play. Plenty of debate on it after their victory in the EFL Cup over Manchester United on Thursday night. Mark, we can start with you on this one. I'm not the Messiah, says Ange Postecoglou. He said, are you not entertained after that win over Manchester United? Didn't he? It was an entertaining interview from him. What did you make of that and indeed the debate that has continued following the game?
Yeah, listen, it was definitely an entertaining game, one of the best we've seen all season, but it was also quite edgy as well. And I think you saw Ange Postecoglou's facial reaction during the final 5 or 10 minutes. He looked really worried, you know. I think the Tottenham fans were quite concerned as well that they could blow a 3-0 lead and end up, you know, being hauled back by Man United to take the game to penalties. So, yes, they got through. They got through to the semi-finals, which is a big thing for Tottenham. They're theoretically 2 wins from winning a major trophy. So that's the good news. But, you know, his style of play does create debate because it leaves Tottenham wide open. You know, most teams at 3-0 would just close the game off and kill it off and get through to the next round. So, on one hand, Spurs fans will enjoy the fact that Tottenham play an attacking football, scoring lots of goals, but they concede way too many. And we have the situation with Fraser Forster trying to play it from the back, and that didn't actually work as well as he would have planned and he would have intended. So, look, I can see why the debate is there. I think Postecoglou probably needs to add some more defensive stability to his team. That isn't his style. You could argue that, you know, managing Celtic in Scotland, it's a little bit easy to play that way to dominate teams because you're not getting the same quality against you as you are in the Premier League. But Ange isn't going to change. He said that and he's made it clear 101 times. But I do think that if he continues like this, it will end up being to the detriment because as good as Tottenham were going forward last night, I think, you know, against Liverpool in the semi-final over 2 legs, they're going to find it very, very difficult to get past that team, that great team that Arne Slot's built at Liverpool this season, if they don't defend better.
Well, the Tottenham boss is also on the back of the Mirror gung-ho-ho. Ange laughs off criticism of his attacking tactics at Tottenham. And I guess, Isaan, with a victory like the one they had against Manchester United, no problem over style as long as Tottenham are winning.
Yeah, they have that impetus there. And from an attacking point of view, they've always got goals in them, which will be the positive Ange will take, and I'm sure the fans will take from the recent performance. It's very up and down, so it has that exciting element to it. But of course, as Mark says, the defensive frailties keep coming back to the fore, and as long as that's there, there'll always be that space where opponents can get at Spurs and find ways to overcome them. From a neutral point of view, of course, it's a very exciting brand of football, and the unpredictability makes them unmissable to watch. But until they're able to sort them defensive frailties out, no matter how many goals they can score in a single game, the question marks are always going to be there at the end of the day.
Mark, let's stay with Ange Postecoglou because he actually mentioned this in his news conference and it features on the back of the Mail as well, involving his accent and paying a bit of comment to that. What do you make of that? That potentially there are people scrutinising him because he's originally from Australia, as you mentioned. He's managed in Scotland. Do you think that scrutiny is becoming a bit personal?
I just think that's a load of rubbish, to be honest. I don't want to, I'm just going to be blunt about that. I don't think anybody that I've heard of has mentioned Ange Postecoglou's accent or his Australian background. I mean, look, the Premier League is an absolutely multinational league. It's cosmopolitan, and some of the best stars of the Premier League era, Harry Kewell, Mark Viduka, Mark Bosnich, Mark Schwartz, Australian internationals, great players. So this idea that because he's Australian, he's got an Australian accent, it makes a difference on how he's perceived is just nonsense. It's about the way he plays his football, his tactics, and more often than not, Spurs get results because that's why they're a team that is challenging for the Carabao Cup, and they were, a top 6-7 finish last season. But to suggest that he's being taught down because he's Australian, I just don't know where that's coming from. I really don't. Whether it's some, Australian English rivalry that's coming out for Manchester, I don't know, but I have not heard anybody suggest that his accent or his background or his nationality has got anything to do with how he's perceived. I just think that, the perception of a manager is based on his performances and his results and his style of play, not anything to do with his accent.
It's interesting you say that, Mark. It's actually a headline in the Times as well. Postecoglou, silly accent makes me an easy target. Let's now concentrate on who'll be in the opposite dugout at the weekend, Isaan, in Arne Slot and Liverpool. And Arne Slot's really been glowing in his praise for Ange Postecoglou and the way he approaches the game, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. And you can remember from a couple of years ago when Arne Slot himself was in contention for the Spurs job, and how it's all turned out for him. He couldn't be happier. Started the league in an immense way, leading the table. Still in early days, of course, and they've conceded a couple of goals in recent games, but they're flying at the moment, and all the teams are, including Arsenal and the rest of the title contenders, they're all looking above at Liverpool, hoping to see if there's chinks in their armour going forward. Of course, with Konate out, that there leaves a gap at the back, which teams will probably look to exploit going forward. And as I say, with the conceded goals in the last couple of games, there could be potential for a potential slip up coming up. But so far, so good. He had massive shoes to follow in the steps of Jurgen Klopp to enter the English Premier League, which is one of the best leagues in the country, and hit the ground running straight from the off, and in the way he has done. He deserves immense credit for that. And yeah, so far, so good for him.
Mark, just want to stay with Arne Slot because on the Express it says Spurs Slot shot. That's the headline. Arne Slot revealed he was happy a potential Tottenham move did not come off. Of course, he's boss of Liverpool now. What do you make of that? And in general, the concept of biding your time for the job that you really want to go for? Because, of course, he stayed in the Dutch league at the time.
Yeah, it's a big call by Arne Slot at the time because, generally when a coach from the Dutch league is offered a Premier League job, they take it, and because it is a step up. Feyenoord to, I guess, most teams in the top half of the Premier League would be a step up, even though Feyenoord are a great club with a great history. It is a step up. So for Arne Slot to resist Tottenham's approaches 18 months ago was a bold move on his part, and it could have gone wrong. Had Jurgen Klopp not decided to leave Liverpool at the end of last season, who knows where Arne Slot would have been now. The Liverpool job may not have come up, but waiting has certainly played his advantage because he's had an absolutely fantastic start at Liverpool. That many people thought that was the impossible job, replacing Jurgen Klopp, but he's come in and he could actually take it to another level because Klopp won one Premier League, he won the Champions League, but there's every chance that Slot could win both this season. They are top of the Premier League, the top of the Champions League table. He's turned Liverpool into a different side, but they've retained that attacking threat they had under Klopp, but they're just a little bit more solid now. So, it's definitely a case of Liverpool's gain is Tottenham's loss, but who knows if he'd gone to Tottenham, whether he could have succeeded there, because we know that a lot of top managers have gone to Tottenham, found it difficult to succeed because of the way that the club is run, because of the recruitment at times, and again, because as Ange Postecoglou's found out, they want to play a certain way, and if that way doesn't work, then you're back to square one. So I think Arne Slot has done a fantastic job at Liverpool, and it's definitely a game for Liverpool rather than Tottenham's loss, I guess.
Isaan, let's stay with Liverpool. Go to the Telegraph and Jamie Carragher's column. My instinct is Trent fancies a change. That is his prerogative, but it comes with a price. And Carragher goes on to discuss Trent Alexander-Arnold's potential legacy at Liverpool. Look, the longer this goes on and a new deal is not agreed, I guess it feels, does it, Isaan, more likely that Alexander-Arnold will go?
Yeah, that's definitely the direction this feels like it's going towards. Arne starting his press conference today made an interesting comment that he obviously likes the fact that Trent's ambitious, but there's a cryptic reminder amongst Slot's press conference where he said it's obviously legacy is important, but it's also important to be a success as part of a team. And I'm sure with Trent, if it is the Ballon d'Or that he's looking to get in the future, and that his main goal and focus, then going to Madrid, where there's been a plethora of Ballon d'Or winners, that could very much be the route for him. But I suppose what's slightly different, I'm sure, is a consideration for him is the fact that he's from the Liverpool academy, he's from the area, and surely that has to take something into account too, because it's different when you've actually grown up at the club and you have that connection, and the fans, because of that, I'm sure they wouldn't. That would make it worse for them as well if Trent was to leave. So it's there's a lot of things at play. There's pride, there's money. Ultimately, it's up to Trent which path he chooses, but the local connection can't be forgotten about too.
Mark, Jamie Carragher says in his column, my instinct is Trent fancies a change. Do you agree with that? And if you think he will go, what do you think is his most likely destination?
Yeah, I think it's been pointing towards that for a long time now. I think Real Madrid, obviously Dani Carvajal's out for the season with a cruciate ligament injury, and Dani Carvajal is obviously in his 30s now, and his best days are behind him. So Trent Alexander-Arnold will seem to be a good fit for Real Madrid. He has made a few comments, like Isaan said, about winning the Ballon d'Or. And that isn't really a comment you'd associate with a Liverpool player. That is a very kind of individual award, and it's one that Real Madrid players seem to be obsessed by to the point where they boycott the ceremony when they don't win it. So I think that Trent to Real Madrid is looking more likely than not. But I think one point that Jamie Carragher makes in his column as well is about how it's handled, because Steve McManaman made the same decision 25 years ago now. He ran down his contract at Liverpool. In many ways, he's not really been forgiven by the Liverpool fans for doing that. Now, it's seen as that the club that has given you a chance, it's kind of given you a career. You, in many ways, owe that club something by not going on a free transfer, even if it's like go with 6 months to go on your contract, so the club gets some sort of recompense for, putting you to where you are in the game. Now, you can look at that both ways. You could say that Steve McManaman and Trent Alexander-Arnold have repaid Liverpool with their performances, with the trophies they've won. But I think if Alexander-Arnold wants to leave Liverpool on a good note, he has to be honest with the fans. He has to give them some clarity and say, look, this is my intentions. Don't leave it to the last minute. Don't leave it as a guessing game. Don't try and sneak out the back door, basically. Just do it, with the kind of respect that Liverpool fans give to their players, give it back. And I think that we're getting to the point now, it's January approaching next month, he can talk to clubs abroad. I just think at some point there needs to be a statement from Trent to say, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I think just from the fans' perspective rather than the club, the fans, Liverpool fans do put a lot behind their team, they put a lot into the players, especially local players. So I think it's just a case of now being honest and being clear with what your intentions are.
Mark, Isaan, thank you for now. Back with you very shortly. When we return, we'll look at more of the back pages, including this in the Times. No hiding place. We're going to be previewing Usyk against Fury next. You're watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back, and welcome back to our guest Mark Ogden from ESPN. And the Mail's Isaan Khan. Isaan, going to start with you and the back of the Sun. Tyson Fury against Oleksandr Usyk. This big World Heavyweight Championship rematch. And the headline there, Tyson Fury, Brit's beard sparks hair-raising rules row. So this about Tyson Fury's beard, Oleksandr Usyk and his team not happy about the length of it. Have you heard anything like this before in boxing?
No, I can't recall such a bizarre thing to crop up before a fight. Never mind days just before a blockbuster heavyweight clash like this. It ties into the theme in general in this past week, and month before this fight, where there's been various mind games, particularly from Fury's side, where he's called him ugly, criticised his gappy teeth, called him a rabbit, and whatever else he can to try and get into the head of Usyk. Tyson Fury, for the whole of his career from the very start, has always tried to get into the heads of his opponents. So it's no surprise here that Usyk and his team are trying their best to gain some mental edge. I can't see this being anything more than a tactic to get a mental edge. I find it hard to believe that Usyk's team are literally worried about the length of Tyson's beard, but it's all good build up and hype before what will be a compelling fight. It's one that's really hard to call. We've got Tyson there with the 4 stone weight advantage, and of course the height difference too. But the 4 stone weight difference, again, you can't really look too much into that because both were fully clothed. So the 4 stone difference is unlikely to be the 4 stones as you'd expect. So yeah, there's plenty of mind games going into this fight, and there'll surely be more in the hours before the fight tomorrow.
It should be compelling, as you said, Isaan. And Mark, they also cover this story in the Times. No hiding place is the headline there. Really difficult to call, according to a lot of experts. Mark, how do you see this fight going? Who do you think comes out on top?
I still think Usyk's the favourite. I mean, obviously he's got the win under his belt from the last fight, and he's undefeated. The 4 stone weight difference is huge. It's a major advantage in Tyson Fury's favour. He's got the height as well. But I still think, Usyk is a formidable fighter. He's got this determination that has taken him to where he is. And I think that the whole row with the beard as well, I think that may be mind games, but there are rules in place in boxing whereby you can only have a beard that is, stubble length, I guess. And the issue is that if there's a cut or if there's an injury underneath the beard, that the medics or the referee can't actually see the cut. So it's a safety issue as well as a kind of an aesthetic thing or just a mind games thing. But we've seen great fighters in the past. Roberto Duran had beards, so it's not something that can't happen. But I do think that there may be a case where Fury has to trim it a little bit because it is quite a long and bushy beard. But yeah, it's not going to play a major factor in the fight. But I do think that Usyk has the advantage because he's the champion. He's beaten Tyson Fury already, and I think Tyson Fury does tend to bounce back in rematches. He's not lost prior to the Usyk fight, but when he's had rematches in the past with Deontay Wilder, he's tended to be the better fighter in the second fight. So you have to give that advantage to Fury, but I do think that Usyk is a different level. I think Usyk is the champion and deservedly so. So I think Usyk will win, and maybe by a knockout.
I'm not sure how often we've spoken about beards on back pages tonight, but it's certainly been an interesting debate. Just turning back to the football, Isaan, and going to the eye, forget football as the headline there. Guardiola ordered players to rest after Derby, but a fresh injury blow with Ruben Diaz being out for a few weeks. I mean, it really is testing his mettle at the moment, isn't it? The run of form, but also the injuries, Isaan.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The back line was already at its lowest ebb. Never mind having now Ruben Diaz out for at least a few weeks. And we've seen in the recent weeks the toll it's taken on Pep Guardiola with the scratches on his head and just his mental fatigue in press conferences around matches. It's clearly taken a toll on him. He's not used to such a prolonged slump. We've seen in the past if he's lost a couple of games here and there, but to lose 8 in your last 11 matches, it's pretty much unprecedented for him at Man City. It's all going wrong, and you'd expect with the Manchester derby just the other weekend, that was the perfect kind of match to bounce back in because of the bragging rights, being in Manchester, and all the things that come around that kind of fixture. So to lose that was yet another hammer blow to Pep Man City. And of course, the Rodri situation in midfield hasn't helped. It won't be inconceivable to see City go in the market from midfield and maybe like a Martin Zubimendi at Real Sociedad, who Arsenal were after over the summer. But something does need to change here. At some stages, it's looking difficult to see where the next win will come for Man City. So it's a really peculiar time at the club.
Yeah, the transfer speculation continues, and that's what the Mail concentrate on. Pep fears rip-off prices in January, and the Mail saying that City could swoop for up to 3 players in next month's window. Mark, which sort of areas do you think they'll be looking to strengthen in particular?
Well, they need somebody in midfield. I mean, that's clear because obviously since Rodri's been injured, they haven't been able to replace him sufficiently. İlkay Gundogan's 34, Kevin De Bruyne is 33, so they need legs in midfield. And Isaan's right, you know, Martin Zubimendi at Sociedad is a target, Bruno Guimaraes at Newcastle, two players that would make City better. I think they need a forward as well. I think, you know, having let Julian Alvarez go to Atletico Madrid, they're missing a, you know, cover or support for Erling Haaland. So his goals have dried up recently, you know, comparatively when you talk about Haaland's form. I think they still have numbers at the back, but obviously I think they would do well to add another player there. So you're looking at three significant signings at least. Now, they've got the money to do that. They announced, you know, great transfer profit, I think about a week or two ago in their financial figures, but signing players is going to be difficult because we know that City have got the 115 charges hanging over them. They deny the charges, but that hearing is now finished, so we're waiting to hear what the verdict is. If City are punished heavily, which could be a huge fine or a point sanction or, you know, worst case demotion, I'm not sure that'll happen, but these things are open to the panel. If that's the case, you know, signing for Man City in January, you need some sort of reassurance that you're not going to be playing in a division you don't want to play in, not going to be at the Champions League next season. So yes, City have got money to sign players, but are they able to persuade players that the Etihad is the place for them to be, considering the uncertainty around the club? And that is going to be difficult.
Mark, just want to stay with you and the Express and Southampton's search for a new manager. Looks as if they're closing in on Ivan Juric, most recently in charge at Roma, sacked there after just 12 matches. It would be his first role outside Italy. Is this the right appointment for Southampton?
If I was a Southampton fan, I'd be a little bit worried, considering Juric's recent track record. Like you said, 2 months at Roma, he spent all of his career in Italy. He's not a coach that would come here with credentials to say that he can get Southampton out of the mess they're in. He's been, you know, a mid-ranking coach in Italy. He's not one of the rising names in the sport over there. He's 49 years old. He's not a young coach. We do know that, you know, Southampton have got, you know, I think it's a Serbian owner, so there's a kind of a connection to that part of the world. So whether it's just a contact from the past, an agent that he knows, but again, if I was a Southampton fan, I'd be a little bit concerned about hiring a coach that doesn't really have the track record you'd expect for a Premier League coach.
Isaan, I want to take you to the Telegraph and Mikel Arteta's 5-year reign at the club, which is what they concentrate on. How do you view his 5 years? Does he need to win a league title to be judged a real success?
He definitely does need silverware for it to be a real success. But when you look over the 5 years from when he started in December 2019, there has been a real change. You've got to remember when he first took on the post, there was a massive culture issue, which he actually alluded to today in the press conference. And as he was talking, you could sense his pride in reflection when talking about uprooting the culture. So we had obviously, there was Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, the Mesut Ozil situation, and various other players who were 30 and over. And at the time, to tear up the contracts of Ozil and Aubameyang were a big deal, and it kind of laid the marker in a way, and it showed other players and other incoming players that it was either Arteta's way or out the door. And from there on in, he's really been able to imprint his mark across the club to the point where his influence
Isaan, I'm going to have to jump in there. It's going to be an interesting test ahead for Arteta. Thank you to you. Thank you to Mark very much indeed. You can